everyone. I'm Hayley Clover, and welcome to CMO Weekly, the show where we sit down with the world's top marketing leaders to uncover the bold moves, tough lessons, and breakthrough ideas that shaped their journey. Every episode, we go beyond the headlines to explore what it really takes to build brands, lead teams, and stay ahead in a fast-changing industry. I'm Hayley Clover, and this is CMO Weekly. This episode is brought to you by OpenFortune, the only marketing company putting your brand inside actual fortune cookies. Yep, those cookies you crack open after dinner, they're now prime real estate for your brand message. OpenFortune distributes millions of branded fortunes every month through thousands of restaurants nationwide, giving brands a moment of surprise and attention that no banner ad can match. Want to reach people when they're smiling, engaged, and ready to share something fun? Head to openfortune.com to learn more. Okay, I am super excited. My guest today is guiding the vision behind Noom's next chapter. Peter Scherr, the Chief Marketing Officer of Noom, leads global marketing at the digital health brand defined by habit-forming behavior change and expansive wellness offerings. After leading marketing through IPOs at Pagaya and Vroom, Peter now steers Noom's brand strategy, from GLP-1 launches to new content leadership. With an MBA from Wharton and a digital-first career foundation, Peter embodies the modern CMO who blends tech, performance, and purpose. Peter, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Hayley. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. I'm excited to have you on and chat a little bit. Noom is, at least in my feed, is everywhere. So I'm super excited to, learn more about the behind the scenes of all of your marketing and just a bit more about your career. So I'd love to start with your career. Tell us a little bit about the beginning stages and then how you found yourself where you are today.
Sure. I would say, first of all, I went to business school and I spent some time following the masses into investment banking, believe it or not, right out of business school. I quickly realized that was not my passion. And I joined an early stage startup that was ultimately acquired by DoubleClick. And DoubleClick, which is now part of Google, at the time was like the largest digital marketing services platform for advertising kind of in the world. And that was really like my biggest learning experience in terms of how sites are monetized, how publishers and e-commerce companies leverage these tools to improve yield on their sites. And that really led me to establish a framework for how I could kind of find my way into really exciting marketing roles within industries. So, for example, I went from DoubleClick into JetBlue to become an actual marketer. And that was an exciting company because it was a direct consumer airline. They were not, in any of the online travel agencies. So that really immediately drew upon all of what I learned at that startup and at DoubleClick. And I moved on to other key roles with a very portable understanding of what it takes to build a digital business. I was in the music industry for a while. I was in financial services at American Express. I then had really a big motivation to join back into the startup world. And so I joined a few small early stage startups. And then really the biggest kind of full stack chief marketing role I had was at Vroom, which was super exciting. Building a brand from the ground up, taking it public was a very exciting opportunity for me. And now I find myself at Noom.
That's amazing. So you've done a little bit of everything.
Yes, I've definitely experienced a variety of different industry verticals.
That's awesome. I feel like that can only be helpful in coming into a CMO role and really understanding who your consumer is and how your messaging can play a part in, all sorts of different customers' lives.
Absolutely. And especially, just managing brand and performance marketing and communications. Each of those companies I mentioned, I had to flex different parts of that to be successful as a marketer.
Right. What was it about the startup life that you loved so much? Was it the fast-pacedness of it or the ever-changing kind of, world?
I love the pace and I love the impact. And when I think about what drew me to Noom, I think about a few things. It really sits at the intersection of technology and healthcare, which is super exciting to me. And the company has a really bold mission to empower people everywhere to live better longer. And the vision is to really add vibrant years to people's lives. So the thing that was exciting for me is, on the one hand, it's this mission-driven company that's having real impacts on people's health and wellness. The other exciting thing was that it was a company in transition. And that's another thing I really love to be part of. So, Noom is in the middle of an evolution from what was originally a behavior change app focused on weight loss to becoming a much broader kind of digital health platform. And that combination of mission and momentum is what really got me excited. That's kind of like what drew me ultimately to join Noom.
That's awesome. So that, I'm guessing, is the current focus, that storytelling of, we're not just this behavior changing, app that maybe you had kind of heard of. We do so many other things as well.
Absolutely. We are a science-backed company, so everything we do is kind of anchored to that. But we really, from getting that message across, we really don't lead with jargon. We lead with telling stories that people could see themselves in. So struggles with willpower, the joy of a small win, the relief of progress. And so marketing here becomes almost like a mirror to people of, oh, I could relate to that. I could relate to what you're showing me, and then offering Noom as like the guide and solution. So that's kind of how the essence of how our marketing takes shape at Noom.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Can you talk to me a little bit about just the competitive industry that you're in general? These wellness-based apps and lifestyle apps are aplenty at the moment. How do you make sure that not only are you distinguishing yourself as a leader within that marketing, but you're also telling the story, like you just said, you're not just another health app. You're not just another fitness app. How do you kind of make sure that you're honing in on that, that spot in the industry?
Yeah, I mean, first we start with empathy, right? So we're acknowledging the lived experience of people, real people who are struggling with their weight. The second is we say grounded in transparency. We are absolutely upfront about the benefits, the side effects, the costs. And finally, we try to resist the hype. In healthcare, trust is absolutely critical and often trumps, clicks, if you will. So we absolutely have to continue to kind of like support that trust component in all of our marketing. The other thing that we focus on is really our approach with the app particularly is really on not just delivering what is happening to you, but the why, right? We want to get into basically in a situation where we are not just reporting back to you the steps or reporting back to you the calorie counts. We want to help you build a better relationship, psychologically based, with what you're doing and why and how it impacts your life and building healthy habits.
Yeah, I mean, because it's so true. Those healthy habits really can't be formed unless you understand why you're trying to do them. You can't just say, I really just want to lose 5 pounds. It's like, okay, well, why do you want to lose the 5 pounds? What is losing that 5 pounds really going to help you? Is it because you want to feel better for your, daughter's upcoming wedding, or all of these, things that actually make a difference?
Absolutely. And it's meant to really, work where diets often don't, by designing change around like the why behind your behavior and not the what.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so important. You mentioned something interesting in there too about, trust being almost more important than clicks. When you are measuring success with this type of, company and this brand, beyond those clicks, what are those signals? Is it retention, or maybe product adoption? What are those metrics that you look for when you are trying to figure out whether your messaging is even working?
Absolutely. So there's a number of things we look at Noom. We are very ROI driven. So obviously with performance marketing and across our spend, we focus on lifetime value to CAC. That ratio ensures us that we're growing the business profitably. The other thing we look at is, and the thing that is a huge component of lifetime value, obviously, is retention, right?
Sure.
Are we engaging with people with depth? And so it's not just about the time spent, it's actually what they're doing during that time that drives, the outcomes that they're looking for. So Are users completing the lessons that we're presenting to them? Are they participating in coaching? Do they feel more confident and healthier over time? We measure progress like that, not just in the time retained with the customer, but in the outcomes achieved that stem from that engagement. So it all is critical in driving, the thing that's critical in driving retention are making sure that they're aware of the value of each of these steps, and that will lead them to the outcomes that have been proven over and over again in our experience.
Yeah, what does it look like for your team? Let's say you're kind of noticing that maybe people are not taking those steps, or they're not, looking into the education or the whys behind, the product that you're selling or offering to them. What does it look like for your team? How do you start to combat something like that?
Like any subscription service, we experience churn. That's just like part of life in a subscription business. But
of course.
We definitely are like very data driven, and we like to produce, for example, I'll just give one example, nurture campaigns that go that start with a welcome message and then get into different types of messages based on whether or not they're engaging with a particular feature or not. So if they're engaging with the feature, we're rooting them on. I'm oversimplifying this. If they're not, encouraging them to engage. And by doing that, like having that nurture series, you're being data driven and you're staying in front of your members to make sure that they have the best shot at habituating towards behaviors that we think and know based on our data will actually drive better outcomes.
I gotcha. Yeah, it's interesting because I have to imagine too, there's got to be a fairly good amount of federal regulations around how you're able to even speak to your consumers, especially about specific, products with weight loss and GLP-1 products. Is it hard, or do you find it to be a fun challenge when you kind of have to figure out how to make this a fun, emotional storytelling journey while you still have to have, very specific things that you have to say and do when you're marketing?
That's very near and dear to my heart. I've been through, we talked about other industries I've been in. I've been in a number of different industries where there's been significant restrictions on how and what you could say in the financial services industry, in the travel industry. So I'm kind of accustomed to that. Here at Noom, we are very, very careful on managing, for example, claims that we put, science-backed claims that we put into our marketing efforts. We absolutely make, back to the science base I talked about earlier, we have experts on staff, clinical experts on staff. We obviously have a chief medical officer, and we do clinical research to make sure everything we're presenting is grounded in facts and in data.
Right.
So there's really nothing, we're never in a position where we are stretching claims to make it sound like one thing when it's not. That is just like part of the brand ethos at the company. So we have processes, obviously, where we have to be quite careful about each new set of creative that gets, that gets launched. That's why, I have peers in other industries where they leverage AI to produce like hundreds, thousands of creatives, which we do. We produce a lot, but it's not the type of industry where you could just let it run without like a review of what is permissible in our industry. And it's become particularly interesting with all the developments, in the GLP-1 marketplace.
Sure. Yeah, it's funny you said that because in my mind, AI, of course, was going to come up in the conversation just because it's so prevalent right now. But I have to imagine you all use AI in the sense that you're making your apps better and a better experience, and you're using it in that way, and maybe not to, like you said, create all of the content that you're putting out to consumers.
Absolutely. I mean, AI gets introduced in a number of different ways. It enables us to pair it with humans. Mm-hmm. In other words, to have that technology consistency that AI produced answers can have for you. It also supports the humans that are communicating things on the phone or through chat. So that's critical. AI for sure helps us on the marketing side with producing high volumes of iterations of ads. We are now kind of like starting to look at AI to help us process intelligently a massive amount of signal that comes from our marketing efforts. AI is used to help produce personalized plans for people and approaches to help them get diagnostics about their body through body scan imagery and things like that. So AI is just playing just an increasingly bigger role in how Noom executes.
Yeah, it's so cool. I find AI fascinating and confusing all at the same time, just because I'm still learning it all, of course.
Sure.
And I'm sure a lot of consumers feel the same way, or like you said, going back to the trust standpoint of it all, maybe not feeling like it's trustworthy. But in this sense, for me, I think, man, how incredible if it can take my data, which I am already willingly giving because I'm trying to change my habits and change my lifestyle. And then it can not only figure out the best plans for me, but it can help me figure out all of these changes to give me a better life. I'm like, to me, that's incredible. Why would I not want to do that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
That's
aligned.
really cool. So where, talk to me a little bit about the channels in which Noom finds itself. Are you all consistently a digital focus based, business? Do we find ourselves on social media consistently? Or are you starting to play with experiential marketing or out of home marketing?
So our brand efforts are definitely dominated by TV and OTT. So we are really investing in brand and seeing a lot of great gains there. I would say that, excuse me, our digital channels are dominated, not surprisingly, by paid social in Meta and Google. We are very active in organic social as well. So those are kind of like the key channels that we are focused on. We have what I would characterize as an R&D budget, where we're constantly testing new channels, new capabilities to be able to determine, is there something there, a green shoot, that will enable it to mature to a kind of like core channel of ours. But I would say, TV, Meta, and Google are kind of like the core channels for us.
Okay. Is there something that you've had in your mind, or just even, as a marketer that's been in so many different types of businesses and industries, is there a marketing campaign that you've always kind of wanted to be able to put out or create that you hope to kind of get to still in the future?
Do you mean like a particular channel?
Yeah, or just like a full brand campaign, even across channels, or if there's one
Okay.
channel that sticks out in your mind that you've always wanted to really be able to hone in on, that too.
Sure. So a couple of things. When I reflect on a fully integrated campaign, there's been a few in my career that I have been super proud of.
Yeah.
One being recently at Noom, obviously. This past fall, when we launched our GLP-1 campaign, so much work went into preparing what I would call a fully integrated campaign, where it was everything from brand, TV spots, down to like how we were communicating, within comments of social posts and paid social ads. Like everything was in formation from a messaging standpoint. So those are my favorite types of campaigns, where the brand is definitely, the why messaging that sets the tone, and all the performance campaigns are really the what. And the sort of the value and the narrative can be felt at every touch point. And that's when I know at least we are putting our best foot forward with the message that has been tested to resonate with consumers, and then is being optimized with creative visuals and so forth throughout the kind of like channel. So that framework of a campaign, of a multi-channel integrated campaign, is really what I have historically really like to execute against. And I've done like Super Bowl campaigns, which demand that at another whole other degree. but that's the kind of like approach that gets me the most excited, when your brand can kind of fill the shoes of an integrated approach like that.
Yeah, that's really cool. We have, a good mix of our audience members are marketers in their early stages who are listening to, folks like you who have these successful careers and are looking for kind of the like background of how all of this stuff works. Can you talk to them specifically a little bit about the time it actually even takes to put on a fully functioning campaign like that, and where you personally even begin? Like, what does that look like from even a leadership standpoint when you get the team together and say, all right, this is what we need to do? Like, how do you start?
Sure. So the absolute grounding of a campaign like that is the narrative. Like, what are we trying to message to consumers with this campaign? Like, what are like the kind of like four key components that we want to get across? So for example, with the campaign I just talked about, it was like price, convenience, trust, and efficacy were like the four vectors that we want. So, we were low price, we were get the medications to your door in 7 days. It was, we are a trusted brand, and of course, evidence-based efficacy in the medication. And so that framework is what the initial discussion was just making sure everyone understood what the kind of like four kind of like categories of this campaign were going to be.
Yeah.
And then we come back together, and everyone who owns each piece of that puzzle begins to kind of like share what they think and how they should execute in their given campaigns. And the preparation is really how it all hangs together, right? Mm-hmm. It's meeting after meeting to make sure that we are all kind of like each landing page, each, meta ad, each Google search ad is conveying and is information on that narrative. And even things like press releases similarly carry the flag of that message, as do talking points for the CEO to get on the phone with press to talk about it. So what you end up with is a confidence that everyone understands those four elements. It shows up, relevant to the channel that it's in. And that's kind of like the framework that I like to apply to these things. And in each, I can only imagine, I wasn't part of, first party to each of these prep meetings of the different channels, but it appeared evident that they each kind of like reminded themselves of those four things as they created, their component of that integrated campaign.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for that background. That's my favorite part, the prepping and the prep meetings of all of that. It's really cool to see what people come back with, and all of the ideas that they have, and then being able to figure out the puzzle, right? Marketing is a total puzzle. It's like, okay, we really love this idea from this one framework out of the four. How do we make sure that benefits number two over here? Because we also like this idea, but maybe they don't totally coincide. And so it's just a really, cool puzzle and fun to figure out.
And I would, back to your first question about what advice to like an up and coming marketer is, definitely dive deep into the channel that you're owning, right? But keep your eyes open to how this all comes together, because that's the piece, that's like the learning moment of, especially when you're part of a very large integrated campaign, learn from the process too. And just, there's so many kind of like cross-functional meetings. Pay attention to what your partners are building and struggling with, succeeding with, because that's where like the lessons are learned, where you could pick up pieces cross-functionally and cross channels that will only be able to enhance your career down the road.
Right. And especially if you have the goal of becoming a CMO,
Right.
Somebody that does have to understand all of those different portions of the business. And then, of course, learning when you're observant like that and you're able to figure out how all of those teams work together, it only helps with the leadership skills as well as to how you can actually get all of those teams to work together when you're starting a campaign like this.
That's right.
Can I talk to you a little bit about your leadership style? How has it changed since you've started? And, if somebody had to describe you on your team, I guess, what would be some of the adjectives that they would give you as a leader?
Sure. I would characterize my leadership style as one of empowerment. So I'll tell you what I mean by that. I definitely encourage channel managers, for example, to view that as they're the CEO of that part of the business, meaning I'm empowering them to run that business And importantly, empowerment doesn't mean that you're off on your own entirely, because empowerment comes with accountability. And so feel the need, I as a leader, impart on them to feel the need to be accountable to the success and the failures that come with owning your channel, for example. So, so that's really kind of, when it comes to, for example, presenting results, presenting, challenges, opportunities, things that we have accomplished, I step back. I want folks on my team to have every chance possible to show their work, to share their experience in a given campaign, a given month reporting, a given quarter. So that's super important to me as a leader, to give people those development experiences of not only running their channels, but the kind of like other level of that, of kind of like sharing with the company, with the department, how and what happened with that campaign. So the other thing I would say is I am huge into developing people. So I find it's one of the most important things in my career related to what I just shared, but making sure that I'm investing the time to kind of bring people along, help them become leaders themselves as they begin to manage people. I think one of the more difficult transitions for people is becoming a manager, because it oftentimes makes them feel like worried about what am I doing now, but I cannot overstate the importance that transition is for people. So coaching people through that transition, as an example, is a huge part of one component of many of developing people, their talents, and when they themselves are quite talented, how they can scale their impact on the business.
I think that's amazing and so important. There's truly nothing better than when you have someone in a leadership position that is willing to help you and lift you up, because not only does it make you want to do your work better and work harder, for the company, but it helps the longevity of the company as well. Because if we're going to develop our own talent, it's like a football team, right? If we can draft football guys that, have that ability or that talent, but we know that we can maybe get them at a lower price, but then we develop them and then all of a sudden we have this guy that wants to work for us and is an incredible talent. And we have some loyalty now behind us. I just think that it's a really smart approach to take.
Thank you. I would also say that, as we were talking, leading by example sounds cliche, but it's really important to show junior people how you make decisions with, good ethics and clear-mindedness. I think that's another lesson to, let them in on how that decision-making process unfolds. And I find that to be, fairness and ethics in decision-making are critical components to this. So they see how important that is as part of like building a company culture and brand.
Yeah. That was awesome. Thank you. That's some seriously good insight for everybody that's listening. We have a couple minutes left. What I usually love to do at the end is hit you with some rapid fire questions that are more about you personally and a little bit less about your work, if that's okay. It's just first thing that comes to your mind. They're fun. They're easy. Okay, cool. So let's get into the fast question round. Person dead or alive that you'd most like to sit down to dinner with?
Wow.
I said they were easy, and then I hit you with a hard one.
Abraham Lincoln.
Cool. Why?
I've not read the full book about it, but the concept that he sort of surrounded himself not only with allies but rivals to get to better outcomes.
Cool. That's awesome. What's your favorite city in the world?
New York.
Are you from New York originally?
Yes, I am born and raised in New York.
I love that. Amazing. New York loyalty is a real thing. In 30 years, what do you think people will be nostalgic about?
In 30 years, I think people will be nostalgic for truth.
Oh gosh, I hope not, but yeah, probably. um, okay, what's the best advice that you've ever been given? Whether it's, advice about personal life or it could be about work.
Basically, whether in business or in life, you always have to be able to look yourself in the mirror.
It's a good one and very, very true. You can only learn. No one is supposed to be perfect. Everybody fails. We have to learn from our mistakes.
That's right.
Do you have any totally random skills or hobbies that have nothing to do with your job?
I actually lived in Japan during college and I can speak Japanese a little bit.
I'm so jealous. I went for the first time in November.
But yeah, I lived in Tokyo for a semester of college.
Wow, that's so cool. That Japanese is a very hard language to learn. So
It
that's
was.
amazing if you even have any tiny bit of understanding. Very,
Yeah,
very cool.
thanks.
What's one thing that your past self, let's say 10 years ago, would be shocked to learn about your life today?
That I have 4 kids that are out of the house.
You did
I
it. That's amazing. 4. That is a lot of kids. Peter,
did.
did you ever think you would have 4 kids?
I did, but now that they're like kind of adults, it's a whole new era, and
I bet.
definitely proud.
It's good. It's the next chapter of, relearning yourself and what's next. It's
Exactly.
cool. Do you have any guilty pleasures, whether let's say it's reality TV or gummy worms or, it could literally be anything.
My current guilty pleasure is buying vinyl records.
Oh, that's a good one. That's not
Yeah,
not too much guilt around that, but that's good. Do
yeah.
you tend to actually listen to them, um, on your turntable? Like, do you take them out all the time and listen to
Not
them, or
often
are they
enough.
kind of,
Whenever I take
yeah,
them out and play them, it reminds me just how amazing the sonic quality is of vinyl versus everything else.
that's awesome. Very cool. Okay, and last question. This is a little bit more about work, but for the folks that are listening, what are 3 brands outside of Noom that you are really loving how they're storytelling right now and how they're doing their marketing that they should kind of watch and pay attention to?
I think Whole Foods
Hmm.
is a good one. Apple is remarkable. So how could I leave
Yeah,
out Apple? I would say Nike is making their messaging is evolving quite well. It went through a period where it wasn't so. They went through a kind of a tough period, but I think Nike is making a resurgence with their messaging.
yeah. I'm based in Portland. My husband actually works for Nike, so good to hear. But it's so true. They went through a bit of a rough period there, but seems to be getting back on track. So it's
Yes.
it's nice to see how you can recorrect as well. Can't always be on the tippy top of your game, right?
Hmm.
Well, that was amazing. Thank you so much for joining me, Peter. I know that there's a lot of really great takeaways here and advice that the newer folks within the marketing industry can take away. And I'm just excited that you could join me. So thank you so much for your time.
Haley, thank you so much for having me.
Of course. And if people want to follow along with your career, where can they find you most? Is it on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I keep LinkedIn pretty up to date. I post occasionally, but yeah, LinkedIn, I think.
Okay. And then Noom on all social channels.
That's right.
Amazing. Yeah, follow along. It is a really cool business. I tend to see your marketing all the time. So it's working.
Thank you so much.